Excellent. Thank you very much, Adrian, and thank you everyone for attending today. Hopefully you get something out of the presentation. As Adrian mentioned, we're going to go through, kind of 18 call strategies and best practices that we've seen. This list could be 10, it could be 30, but there's 18 that we've identified that are pretty key. So we're going to dig through these and hopefully give you some tips on how to get paid a whole lot faster and easier on your accounts receivable. So these are the 18 topical areas that we're going to go through today. And I just want to spend a second on the slide to let you understand what our rationale is. We talk to companies across industries, and a lot of times, they're looking for the easy button. They're looking for, that winning call script or that one thing that they can do that's going to help them get paid faster. The trouble with that is that there is no easy button and there is no simple call script that's going to be magical. Everything that you do is going to be very dependent on the nature of your business, the nature of your customers, the nature of your business process. So what I want to give you instead is kind of a methodology to go through. And it's going to start with research. We're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to go into goal setting because we need to know kind of where we want to get to. We're going to talk a little bit high level about some strategies you can implement. And then we're going to go right into the topic of call scripts and some of the different areas in there. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about measuring results. And we'll wrap it up with a short commercial on our product if any of you are interested in taking a look at it. So let's start off. If we're doing our research, the first thing I would do is take a look at who my customers are. Am I selling to business customers, or am I selling to consumers? What you're going to find if you look out into the marketplace is that there's collection call strategies that are very, very different in B2B versus B2C. There's also software products that are designed for B2C collections, and other software products like ours that are designed for B2B. What products and services do your customers buy from you, and can you segment your customer base on that? In a lot of businesses you can, and that's going to impact later on how we're going to go about defining the collection and call strategies for our accounts. Industry and geography, industry more so than geography, but you're going to get some differences. Collecting in transportation and logistics is very, very different than collecting on AR in construction or wholesale distribution or advertising and media. So you want to understand what those nuances are and what the needs are of your customers, and really understand, from your whole accounts receivable portfolio, which customers fall into those industries. Geography does play a little bit into that. Some companies in different geographies were hit a little harder with the recession. Some are still coming out. So you will see a lag between customers depending on where they're physically located. Are you dealing with small companies? Are you dealing with large companies? Are you dealing with mid-sized companies? Do you have a mix? The process is going to be different because a small business, you're probably trying to get a hold of a part-time AP clerk, or you're, in many cases, going to be calling the president or maybe a CFO. In a larger organization, there's a lot more structure. You're going to be calling, maybe accounts payable, and then up from that, you might be talking to, a controller or something like that. Understand the organizational structure. There's so many different variations of businesses and how they're organized. One example is you have national accounts with subsidiaries. With that type of relationship, who's responsible for making the payment? That's just one simple example. But the other thing is, I might have an AP clerk, but the AP clerk can't pay anything until it gets approved by somebody else. So you need to understand what that organizational structure is and who has the authority to actually pay you. Corporate culture and company history also play into this a little bit. Now you can't do this for every single one of your customers, but I do recommend that you take a look at your top 10 customers and try to understand their culture and their history. Some companies are going to pay you on time. Other companies aren't. It's part of their culture. From a history perspective, it does help to understand, is this a company that's newer, less established? Are they growing? Is it a company that is very well established, been around for 100 years and is very disciplined in what they do? Are they old-fashioned? Are they open to new technologies? So there's a lot of things you really need to understand, especially with your top customers. Payment policies and procedures. This varies across companies. I'll give you a couple examples here. You may have customers that require that their purchase order is on the invoice in order for them to make a payment to you. By simply doing some research and understanding which customers have that requirement, you can avoid a lot of headaches in the process. Some of the research we've looked at indicates that about 60% of disputes are directly related to a missing or incorrect purchase order on an invoice. What that's going to do, it's going to directly negatively impact your accounts receivable. It's going to drag on that process and it's going to cause heartburn with your customers, because if they tell you, I need the PO on it, and you continually provide an invoice without the PO, they're going to get fed up and maybe go somewhere else. Versus new accounts, you need to identify and maybe segregate your customer base a little bit there, because if I have established customers, they have established credit, maybe they're late pays, but I know in the end of the day they're going to pay me eventually, I'm going to have a different strategy that goes for them versus maybe a new customer. I don't have a relationship with them. I'm starting to build that. I have no history. And I need to be a little bit more careful there to avoid bad debt write-offs. Strategic and national accounts, I always recommend you identify those. Segment those off so you can understand that these are companies that are special. These are companies that we want to grow business with, or companies that have the potential to take us really to that next level. And then last but not least, you can also segment your customers based on credit risk. There's a lot of resources out there. You can go to the credit bureaus, Dun & Bradstreet, Experian, you name it. You can also use some of your internal data if you happen to have some. Look at how many times they've broken a promise to pay or had disputes, and really try to identify, here's my high-risk customers. I'm going to manage them differently than my low-risk customers. Now, customer analysis is nice, but at the end of the day, you are building a relationship with a person. We always hear that people buy from people they like. Well, people pay people they like. You need to identify who your contacts are. And this kind of makes sense. I mean, if we look at the whole process, on the front end, we're trying to sell something to a customer, right? We have a CRM system that we use to manage that relationship, right? Customer relationship management. But then what happens, we establish that relationship, we establish that customer from a sales perspective, we bring them on board, and then we kick it over to an accounts receivable clerk or a credit manager or credit supervisor or whoever, and we're really trying to rebuild that relationship. So what we need to do is we need like a CRM system designed for our account management, which is a very different thing than CRM for prospecting. We need to know who is our primary contact, and in most businesses, you don't even know who the secondary contact is. What if that AP clerk leaves? What if they get a promotion? You always should have best practice, a secondary or maybe even a third contact. You also want to understand their gender and their age, some of the demographics. It's going to give you some insight. Now, not everybody's the same, right? Not all men are the same, not all women are the same, but you will understand maybe some differences. And the same thing with age. If you're working with somebody that's younger, they may be more in tune with modern technology. Maybe they prefer to get an email or even a text instead of receiving things in the mail. Understand their location and their work schedule. Location's important because do they work at home? Do they work in the office? What time zone are they? So you can plan your calls accordingly. Do they only work certain times a day? When do they take lunch? Those types of things are important to know about your contacts. What's their role, their position, and authority to make decisions? Are they able to actually make a promise to pay and keep that promise? Are they the ones cutting the check, or do they have to go to somebody else? If there happens to be a dispute and you need to negotiate, do they have the authority to negotiate maybe some sort of a write-off or different credit terms or really anything around that? What's their communication style and preference? Now, these are important things to consider. Do they not like to talk on the phone? Do they love to talk on the phone? Education and experience is something else you may want to consider. Because it's going to vary, right? If you're working with somebody that doesn't have a whole lot of experience in payables, maybe they're new, maybe they're a temp, you're going to have to educate them a little bit more on the process. What's their personality and their personal life? We spend a lot of time in CRM on the front end in sales thinking about this, right? We want to know, when is this person's birthday? Do they have children? Are they a cat person or a dog person? We're trying to build this relationship. It's no different when we're looking at accounts receivable. A quick story here. We had a person that was employed with us a number of years. Would love to have had her forever. She ended up moving to Florida, so we lost her. But she built these personal relationships with the accounts payable contacts at our customers. And you know what? We didn't need software. We didn't need technologies. We had Lynn. She was able to build these relationships so that our customers felt guilty if they didn't pay us on time. This is what we're driving for. We're driving toward exceptional customer service throughout our business, and relationships is where it begins. And it has to be legitimate and authentic. Understand what drives your contacts. Understand that there's language and cultural considerations. If you happen to be, we deal with a lot of companies in Israel, Middle East, respect the fact that they may be off for Jewish holidays. Understand, language preferences if you are multilingual. So there's a lot of different things to understand really around your contact. The third part of our research here is understanding your accounts receivable. And there's a lot of ways to look at your AR. The first one's easy, right? Everybody's got access to an aging report. Understand where you're at, understand where you've been, and kind of where you want to go. Then there's three other metrics. We'll talk about these in more detail later, but you can look at days sales outstanding, average days to pay, or average days late. Some ERP systems will give you this information, others won't. We actually have this embedded within our product. Look at the credit terms and credit limits across your customers. If you can, try to identify some commonality or averages. Look at your bad debt write-offs. This is important. A lot of people that we talk to don't even know what they wrote off in bad debt last year. This should be something that is top of mind, and you're always looking for ways to reduce that. Understand if you have disputes, why you have disputes, and also identify if you have broken promises to pay if you're tracking that today. Two more points here, cash forecast and working capital. You need to understand what kind of cash you expect in, and then you can look at that in respect to your accounts payable, right? So it's the whole working capital thing. If I have to pay my vendors on 30-day terms and I'm extending 30-day terms to my customers, but it's taking them 60 days to pay me, I have a gap. I am paying out faster than I'm getting paid. So you need to understand how that will impact your working capital. Also understand your invoice volume and size, and that'll go into a lot of different things. Are we staffed appropriately to manage this volume? How do we segment and prioritize invoices based on the size of the invoice? So a lot of things you need to research and understand around your AR. Let's talk a little bit about setting goals. And there's a lot of different types of goals that you can set. One could be, percent or days reduction in, in getting paid faster, right? It's taking me 60 days to get paid today. I want to reduce that by 10% or by 6 days, and I need to put that in a time frame. Is that within 6 months? Is that within a year? Is it within 2 years? The other thing that we run into a lot is that companies just don't know if they're doing a good job getting paid or if they are getting paid fast enough. There are some industry benchmarks out there. One great resource is the Credit Research Foundation. You can go to their website, you can put in all of your accounts receivable information, and in return, they will then benchmark you against your peers, similar sized companies, similar industry, similar geography, so you can find out, am I doing as well as the guy down the street in the same industry? Also look at setting goals, either across all accounts, or maybe you just want to focus on a subset. Maybe, I have 20 customers that represent 80% of my revenue. That's really the subset of accounts that's going to give me the biggest bang for my buck, and I want to set some goals around getting paid faster just for those accounts. We talked about the cash flow considerations. I need to make sure I'm getting paid so I, in turn, can pay my bills. And then I need to look at what are the strategies that I'm going to implement to help me get paid faster. Because it's easy to set a goal and say, hey, I want to get paid 20% faster or 12 days faster, but what am I going to do to actually impact that number? Another goal that I always suggest is a great one is reducing bad debt. On average across industries, most companies are writing off about 4% of accounts receivable every year. If you're doing a good job, you're probably only writing off maybe 1 or 2%, but that's still pretty sizable. If you're a $10 million company, 4% is $400,000 a year you're writing off to bad debt. Some industries, you guys sell a lot more product and service to make up for that amount of loss. So, what could you do if you reduce bad debt write-offs by 10% or 20%? Chances are you're going to be a lot more profitable. And we're going to look at that, in terms of what did we write off last year. We're going to do some peer benchmarking, find out what is the industry average. We're going to look at, do we want to compare this or set a goal in percent or dollars? And then again, what are the strategies we're going to implement that are going to help us reduce bad debt? Invoice disputes is another one. Anytime you're extending credit terms to a company, you're going to have a dispute eventually, right? There's going to be a percentage of those invoices that are in dispute. Some of those are going to be your fault, right? Missing purchase order, sent to the wrong person, didn't get the invoice to them at the right time. Some of them could be the customer's fault. They got the invoice, they dumped coffee on it, threw it away. There's a million reasons they're going to give you, and you've heard them all, on why they're not paying on time. The important thing here is we need to set some goals. We want to reduce invoice disputes by a number or by a percent or by dollars in dispute. But then we need to analyze this a little bit, and we need to have tools and resources available so we can identify what are the reasons for disputes. Can we categorize them? Are we constantly having damaged goods? Maybe it's something simple as changing our distributor or our trucking company. Maybe it's changing the packaging. Maybe it's a quality problem. They're not going to pay because 10% of the products you're shipping to them are broken or not to spec. And once we identify the reasons for the disputes, we can get down to fix the root cause of that problem so that we prevent them from happening again. Understand how many disputes you had last year if you can get those analytics. Look at the time to resolution. If a customer has a dispute and identify it today, how long does it take me to resolve that so that I get paid? In most cases, what you're going to find out is that it's taking way too long. You identify the resolution, you don't have a policy procedure in place, the right people aren't involved, and it's taking you 30 or 60 days to get paid because you can't resolve it in a timely manner. And again, what are the strategies we're going to implement to support this goal? Because it's not going to happen magically. We need to do something to impact that number. 6.5, I'm giving you a bonus here. These are some other optional goals. I would only look at these after you've tackled the first 3 goals and achieved some level of success there. Getting paid faster, reducing your bad debt, and reducing disputes. Once you've mastered those, which I'm sure you will, some other ones: improving customer satisfaction, looking at things like net promoter scores, doing surveys of your customers, reducing the order to cash cycle time, analyzing the time that you take the order to the time you get paid and how you can shrink that in between, reducing the amount of time it takes you to actually create and get the invoice in front of the customer, because you might be extending that 30 terms to the customer, and you might be basing that off of the time the invoice is created. But if the customer's receiving it 20 days into that cycle, they're looking at net 30 and saying, well, I just got the invoice, I'm going to sit on it for 30 days. So now you're 20 days past terms. So if we can get the invoice to them faster, we should be able to shorten that cycle time down. Another one pretty near and dear to all of our hearts is reducing costs, right? We want to make our collectors more efficient, allow them to make more calls, manage more accounts, more invoices, easier, faster. We want to reduce material costs, maybe sending fewer statements and invoices in the mail, cut down postage, cut down paper, toner, envelopes, all of that. Anything we can do to leverage technology to get a cost reduction. We want to better manage our own receivables, and what that's going to allow us to do is to reduce our dependency and the cost associated with collection agencies, factoring or short-term loans and the interest we're paying on them, as well as legal fees. So if we can identify it and resolve it in-house, it's definitely going to be a lot more cost-effective. Let's talk a little bit about strategies. So most people don't have a collection strategy. Your strategy is the customer's late, you wait until you have a cash flow problem, you call the customer, they tell you whatever, they have a dispute, and then you try to resolve the dispute, or they promise to pay and you move on with your day to the next account. It's not much of a strategy. The first step, and we've got tools that we'll provide you at the end of the presentation today, but we have a white paper that kind of walks through how to create a credit policy. It doesn't have to be anything dramatic or extensive, but you should have some sort of credit policy saying, you know, what terms do you extend to customers, what do those terms mean, who extends the terms, who approves changes to them, credit limits, credit terms themselves. And then you need to have documented procedures. Who's responsible for making calls, sending the emails, sending the invoices, what happens at what stage, you know, when do you make that first call, when do you send what email, etc. Part of that strategy then is looking at your email, the templates, the content that you're using, the messaging, as well as anything that can be automated. Most of us do not do reminders before an invoice is due. Why? Because we're too busy to ever get to that. But there's software on the market like ours that can do that for you. You know, set up some sort of a rule where any customer that has an invoice due in the next 3 or 5 days where there's a balance due receives a nice friendly reminder email with a copy of the invoices attached and maybe even a link to pay their bill online. Let's make it easy for them, and let's use technology and automation to achieve that. Look at, if you're a large organization, the account and task assignment. If you have 2 or 3 people in credit collections, maybe you want to segment your accounts. You have one person focused on your top 20 customers, top 30 customers, what have you. Maybe you divvy them up based on geography. You have somebody handling East Coast, somebody handling West Coast. There's lots of ways to gain efficiencies here. The other thing is task assignment. You might have somebody that's really, really good at managing disputes. Put them on that. Let them handle anything that's identified as in dispute. You might have somebody that loves to talk on the phone. Put them on those first and second phone calls. Also look at your escalation policies and procedures so you can manage a little bit by exception. If we have a large invoice, it's now 30 days past due and it's with a high-risk customer, that had better be escalated to somebody with authority to do something about it. You know, maybe that's not my accounts receivable clerk. So you need to implement all of this and think about all of this as part of your overall strategy. Centralize your information. This is something else that is, I think, very strategic. Too often we're talking to companies and they're using 15 different systems and everybody's using it differently. And you've got, obviously, your ERP financial data where your customer accounts, contacts, receivables, payments, sales rep, all that information kind of lives and breathes in that system. But then they're using personal email accounts to communicate. Makes it very difficult to escalate things to other people. makes it very difficult to move an account from one person to another. And it makes it very difficult, quite honestly, just to find out what happened the last time because you're continually going back to your personal email. Document management systems, people are using those throughout the process for things like business credit applications, credit reports, maybe supporting documents that go along with the invoices, things like bills of lading, proof of delivery, proof of service, freight invoices, you name it. You may have some information in your CRM system. You may have other disparate systems, maybe a homegrown application or a custom billing system. And then on top of all that, you have handwritten notes, printed aging reports, Excel spreadsheets, and everything's kind of spread all over. You really need to bring all that information into one place to make it so much easier for you to spend more time on the phone talking and less time trying to find the information you need before you can pick up the call. Management by exception. This is something that we would love to all get to. I think we'd all agree on that. And there's really several areas here. One is prioritizing. If we're going to manage by exception, we need to look at the highest priority activities first. Now, how do we do that? If we're lucky, not lucky, if we're like everybody else, what we're probably doing is printing out the aging report and calling the people that have the highest balance first. That's one way to look at it. What if that happens to be an established account and they always pay you 30 days late? Well, not really the highest priority. I'd rather call that new customer that, against my better judgment, I just extended $50,000 to, and now they're 30 days late. That should be my first call. I need to be able to reduce my call prep time so that I can spend more time managing by exception. I need some way that if I have an issue that's open, the customer had a dispute, I've recorded it in some fashion, but now all of a sudden they make a payment. Well, I still have that on my to-do list of things I need to look into, but meanwhile, it doesn't even require my attention. It's one of the advantages of using software to manage this process because there's an auto-close feature where software tells you this customer is now past due, make a call, you don't get to it today, they make the payment, and guess what? That call goes off your list automatically, and you can focus on just what you need to do. Evaluate those risky customers, right? Those are going to be the exceptions. Spend more time calling. Divide and conquer if needed. In a lot of cases, management by exception means you need to escalate things faster. And one little note here, don't avoid those difficult calls. In every business, we try to hire the right people for the job, but some people just don't like talking on the phone or they don't like conflict. You can't avoid those difficult calls. If we know we have a customer that's struggling financially or they're just not a very pleasant person to deal with, I have to make those calls. I have to know how to handle those calls. So let's talk a little bit now about kind of best practices in making phone calls. The first step is let's know who we're calling. Are we calling our primary contact? What happens if the primary contact isn't there? Do we have a secondary contact? What happens if we're getting nowhere with either of those two people? Who is their supervisor? Who do we go to escalate this issue within their organization? In a lot of cases, the person that we're trying to collect from never authorized the purchase, right? We sold to services to a company, and it was the sales manager that approved the purchase of the CRM software, use an example. But we're trying to call accounts payable to get paid on it. Well, in some cases, we need to escalate back to the person that authorized the purchase because they're the ones telling the AP clerk, don't pay this bill because we're not happy with the services we got. So you need to understand who was involved really in this whole process. Who's the sales rep attached to the account? This is critical. The sales reps should have a better relationship than you do with your customers. I think we would all agree on that. They're the ones that are out in the field, on the phone, trying to sell new products. They're the ones that built that relationship to begin with to win their business. Sometimes we need to understand who the sales rep is to get them involved in the process. Hey, Joe, you remember that you sold this to your customer? Guess what? They haven't paid us. Oh, that's all right. You know what? I'm going to be out there on site next week. They're looking to buy some more products or services from us. I'll go ahead and make sure that I tell them we need to get this issue resolved before I can put in that order form. Little things like that are huge in the process. Within knowing who to call, you also need to understand who's going to handle the escalation internally. If I'm getting nowhere, if I need some help, maybe it's legal help, maybe I need a demand letter sent, maybe the customer told me, look, I'm not paying because your product quality is horrible. I need to escalate that to somebody internally to be able to manage that process, maybe do a return or something. I also need to understand their account status and their tendencies. If I'm calling a customer and they're always late, but they always eventually pay, I need to understand that. If I'm calling somebody and their tendency is to make a promise to pay but never follow through, I need to understand that. So understand the people and kind of, their little nuances in the process. Know when to call. This one is often overlooked. A lot of times when we're dealing, especially with smaller companies, they have a part-time bookkeeper or AP clerk. When do they work? Maybe they only work 1 day a week. When do they take lunch? Maybe they take a late lunch because they like to go spend time with their son or daughter. What's their time zone, right? You don't want to call them before they're ready for you. Is it better to call this person in the morning or better to call them in the afternoon? What's the best day of the week to call them? You probably don't want to call them on Monday, especially if you have a very difficult conversation planned with them. And you probably don't want to call them on Friday unless maybe that is the best day because they're not as busy. Call frequency also is something to consider. Some contacts you need to hound them and eventually you'll get through. Other customers, the more you call them, the more you're going to get voicemail because they're never going to pick up the phone. And then the other consideration here is, do I call them immediately the minute I identify that there may be an issue? Or do I give them a little bit of time and wait? So there's lots of considerations around when to make that call. Know why you're calling. This one seems like a given, but a lot of times we overlook this one as well. What is the issue at hand? Is it the fact that they have an outstanding balance? Well, how late is it? What was the last communication that I had with them regarding this issue? And maybe I'm calling because it's just a new customer. It's the first time we've ever invoiced them, and I want to ensure that they're happy with our product and service. I want to talk to them about the invoice and make sure that it is accurate, that it had the PO on it, they received it, and it was easy to understand. And I want to talk about our credit policies and procedures so they understand that net 30 is net 30, not pay me when you feel like it. I also want to understand what happened the last time I talked to them. I want to be able to manage things like annual credit reviews. Is this a customer I need to review every year? If they're doing really well, maybe I want to extend more credit, more buying power to them. If they're paying me early, maybe I want to give them discounts. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do when you have this information available at your fingertips. And then really, what do I need to do for this call? If it's a dispute and I look at the history, I probably need to call somebody internally, find out was the dispute resolved, did we process the RMA, did we credit their account? A lot of times we're dealing with things that are beyond our control. So before I make that call, I want to make sure I have all the information right there at my fingertips. Know what to say. There's textbooks on this, and a lot of them are psychological, but you really need to plan for what you're going to say. If you're new or you don't like making collection calls, you need to practice so you get good at it. In some cases, you can implement call script. I'm not a big fan of call scripts because they're very difficult to read. It sounds very fake. I'd rather have call points. These are the things that I want to say on the call. You can jot them down. Sometimes you can keep them as things you go back to over and over again. If I have a dispute, these are the things I want to identify on the call so I don't forget something. Remember your tone of voice. This is your customer. It took you a long time to get them as a customer. The last thing you want to do is have a tone of voice that comes across as being aggressive or angry. You're there to service them. There's some psychological strategies that you can implement. A lot of times it's simply calling them and saying, hey, Sandy, I saw that this invoice is past due. Can you tell me when we can expect payment on that? And then stop and listen and let Sandy tell you why you haven't been paid. So there's tons of things around the psychology of what to say, how to say it. Definitely don't be confrontational. You can't be confrontational. Leave that to the point when you're threatening demand letters and legal action. But on the front end of this, you should never be confrontational. This is your customer. Be apologetic and sympathetic to their situation, even if it's their own fault. You know, I understand you didn't get the invoices. That's fine. I will resend those invoices. Can you do me a favor? Can you confirm you received them? And can you expedite payment on this invoice? Or I'm so sorry that we shipped you the wrong product. What we're going to do is I'm going to process an RMA. And once you get the return product, can you ensure that you pay us on time? One other thing is sometimes it's not knowing what to say, it's knowing when to shut up. The best communicators in the world will listen more than they talk. Ask a question, wait and let the customer talk. If they're venting, sit and listen, document things, ask them questions, clarify. So what you're saying here is that the product wasn't up to your specifications. Well, what were your specifications? And every single time you need to ask for the money and get a commitment to pay. How much are you going to pay? When are we going to get paid? Last but not least, kill them with kindness, and sometimes you need to be a little flexible. You know, if the customer's having some tough times, you know, why don't we put you on a payment plan? Or could you afford to pay us 50% now? Always try to get something rather than leave it out there, because eventually you're not going to get paid at all. Know how to handle objections. This is probably the most difficult part. You know, it's little things like, you know, they didn't get the invoice on time. That's easy to remedy. I'll resend the invoice to you. But when somebody truly has an objection, you need to be like the guy in the picture here, you know, kind of the Zen master, relaxing, focused. Take control of the situation. Don't let the customer take control. Remain calm and collected. Try to understand their point of view. And sometimes calls are going to go really ugly. It's okay to say, you know what, this might be a bad time for us to talk. And I schedule a follow-up when we can all get some more information and maybe take a different look at this situation here. And then try again. Take ownership of the situation and the resolution. Maybe, you know, we did ship the wrong product to the customer. You can say, you know what, I'm gonna follow up. I'm gonna call shipping and receiving. I'm gonna call the sales rep, see if there was some, you know, miscommunication there. Get the research done, follow that through, and then call the customer back and say, you know what, you're right. We shipped you the wrong product. I've taken care of it. The new product's on its way. Go ahead and send the old product back, and really manage that whole process through the resolution. Remember, your job is customer service. It's not collecting. We're just servicing our customers. Ask for partial payments. Use call scripts. You know, there's certain types of disputes you don't deal with all the time. Might be a freight issue. If you don't handle those things, you need some sort of a guide on what you need to do. And sometimes if it might be a personality thing. If I can't handle the objection, or I just can't communicate with this person, maybe it's time for me to escalate it to somebody else. A couple points here I just want to emphasize. The cost of acquiring a new customer is estimated about 7 times the cost to retain a customer. So sometimes we may need to bend a little bit. The customer may think it's our fault. We may know it's their fault. Is it worth losing the customer? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Maybe we need to credit them back 5%, 10% to make them happy. It's better than losing them. So you always need to continually weigh these things. One little stat, I didn't know where to put it, so I just put it on a slide because I want to share it with you. Again, most businesses are writing off about 4% of AR annually. Let's put that in perspective. $10 million business, $400,000. If you can get just a minimum 10% improvement, you're saving $40,000 a year. If you're a wholesale distributor operating on razor-thin margins, that's significant. That's a lot of sales you need to make up for that amount of lost profit. Another quote here: for every customer complaint, there are 6 other customers who remain silent. There could be a lot more than that. So it is important to understand that as we're trending up, we're seeing trends in disputes. There's probably a lot more that are hidden. Sometimes we need to prod and poke our customers to give us that information. And if we have a relationship with them, they will be much more apt to share that with us. I wanted to share one quote with all of you. Anytime Collect works beautifully, it is very user-friendly and can be sorted in any manner that you choose. We simply couldn't be happier and recommend it to anyone that needs a better way to manage their AR. Yeah, it's a great company. They're involved in advertising and media. We're struggling with their accounts receivable, implemented the software, and I've seen some really significant results. Number 15, know what to do next, right? So we've completed the call. What are we going to do next? Well, first of all, we're going to document what was done so that if this gets escalated, the next person in line can see everything that we've done. If the account gets moved to another collector, they can see what's been done. If the CEO or president logs in or looks at our information, they're going to know what's been done. But then within that, we need to identify, was it successful, was it unsuccessful? What's unsuccessful? What can I do to improve? I need to set reminders to make sure I don't let things drop. I need to follow through on the activities. If I told the customer I'm going to call the sales rep and get this straightened out, I need to do that. If I have a collections plan, which again was very early on in the presentation, develop that collections plan, I need to leverage that. I need to follow that plan. I need to know that if I have invoices that are now 10 days past due, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it in a timely manner. Escalate and monitor my high-risk customers effectively. Analytics, now we're to the point where we've implemented everything, right? We've set goals, we've done all our analysis on our customers, we've set our strategies. Let's analyze things and see what's working. We can do this a number of different ways. We can look at our aging, we can look at our collection activities. Are we calling enough? When we're making calls, are we getting through to the people? Look at your top customers. Is it a good benchmark? Are they happy? Are they paying better? Look at the number of broken promises. Cash forecasts. Are we accurately able to predict and forecast our cash and projected cash receipts? Can we do some analysis maybe by account demographic? Maybe we want to drill down even further into the data and find out, you know, are our commercial customers paying us better than our industrial customers? So there's some demographic information you can dig into. Look at it by invoice size. Sometimes you'll get a clearer picture there. If you never call on invoices that are past due, that are under $100, guess what? You're kind of training your customers that you're never going to call them a small dollar invoice. They're going to start to pay you later. Maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you're always calling on those small dollar invoices because it's easier to get paid. Next thing you know, your customers are paying you late on the large dollar invoices. And you'll be able to see that with some business analytics. Dispute resolution analysis, how many did we have? Were we able to reduce it? What was our time to resolution? Were we able to shrink that time? And there's a lot of other analytics that are out there. We can look at analytics for specific accounts. You know, if 80% of our business is with Walmart or General Electric or somebody, we really should look at the analytics just on that customer. Maybe it's by job. If we're construction or professional services, we can look at analytics across the jobs or the services we're providing. Key performance indicators, these are really the top line business metrics. The first one is probably the most important. If you do nothing else, understand how long it takes to get paid. That's going to be reflected in either your days sales outstanding or average days late. And then set a metric. We want to reduce that by 10 days or by 10% or what have you. Bad debt write-offs, invoice disputes, those are really the three KPIs that I would focus on personally. Keep it simple. You don't need anything extravagant. You don't need to drill into it anymore. You fix those three things, get them on the right path, everything else is going to work itself out. And then review and refine your policies and procedures frequently. You know, a lot of times we write these policies and procedures, we then acquire a company, we find ourselves in different markets, we're now doing business internationally. All of that impacts everything in our business, including our accounts receivable. You need to understand changes that need to be made within the whole process. Could be new technology you've implemented. There's lots of reasons to go back and continually refine these things. Last but not least here, let's keep everybody informed. That includes our customers, the rest of the credit team, finance and accounting, executive management, sales reps, customer service, manufacturing, quality, shipping, IT, our legal services, and third-party collection agencies. You know, there's so many stakeholders in this process. We're not going to give them all the information all of the time. We need to give them the right information in the right format at the right time. You know, the executive team, they just need to understand where the problems are that they need to focus their attention to. Sales reps, if you have sales reps that are continually having problems, you need to be able to get them the right information so that they can help you on the front end of the process. Manufacturing, quality, and shipping, you know, you're the collector at the end of the day of all the problems that everybody else created. If it happens to be a product quality that's causing you not to get paid, those people need that information so they can fix it. So keep everybody informed of what's going on. Those are my 18 tips and strategies. Hopefully you got something out of it. We're going to wrap up real quick with kind of a high-level overview of Anytime Collect, a better way to get paid faster. At least we believe so. Real high level, this is what the software does. It does automated emails. It has mail merge templates. It prioritizes call lists so the collectors know exactly who they need to call, when, and why. Has built-in dispute management. You identify a dispute. You can put reason codes on it, do analysis on that, escalations off of that. It's got the built-in business intelligence, built-in document management. It is available multilingual. So if you have global operations, you can log in multiple languages. You can communicate with your customers in different languages. It has cash flow forecasting. It pulls all this information and systems together. So all the data from your ERP. We can create emails which are sent out from your email but stored in the software with all the inbound responses from your customers retrieved back into the system automatically. So everything's in one place. It has credit and risk management and tools embedded within it. It has the data sync to your ERP or even to other ancillary systems. For larger companies, it has credit team management. It also has email alerts and notifications. So you could have a notification that goes out automatically based on a rule that you set up in our software that notifies the sales rep of every one of their customers that has an open dispute that hasn't been resolved. Or you can notify executive management every single time that you have an invoice that is now 30 days past due and over 50,000 or whatever number you pick past due so that they can insert them into the process. You could have alerts that go out to the quality management team or customer service team or shipping team when things are, disputes are identified related to their area of the business. So there's lots of ways to leverage the software to keep everyone informed. And then last but not least here are payment schedules. If you have customers that need to be put on a payment schedule, you can take an invoice, you can break it down, let them make payments on it. The return on investment from using software like Anytime Collect, and there are others out there on the market, but our general class of software is credit collections management. You're typically going to see about a 10 to 20% reduction in your day sales outstanding. Fancy word for saying you're getting paid 10 to 20% faster. 25% reduction in past due receivables, 15 to 25% reduction in bad debt write-offs, increased productivity, you can do things better, faster, stronger, hold down your staffing costs. And one of the resources we do have is an ROI calculator. You can go out, enter your financial information, number of users, expected reductions, and it'll tell you, will this save you money? I can tell you right now, most of our customers are getting a minimum of 20% improvement in the first year. We had one customer that was a 40% improvement, meaning they were getting paid, in their case, actually almost a month faster. Just a couple screenshots because I'm not going to demo you to death here today. If you are interested, we'll send you some resources with videos. You can take a look at them. But this is just a sample of the dashboard. And over on the right is our prioritized action list of the things we need to get to. Last but not least, around this topic, I'm not an expert in everything, so we do partner with other folks. I want to mention Michelle Dunn. She's a partner of ours that does really accounts receivable, credit collections consulting and best practices. She has a resource kit that we provide, has some sample call scripts, call procedures, collection letter templates and email templates. And we actually bundle all this together for $800, and you even get 2 hours of personalized training with Michelle. So just another offering to consider. Michelle also has a number of books. Whether you're buying our software or not, you can go out to Amazon, and she's got one on telephone collection call scripts, one on the guide to getting paid, how to use social media to get paid, effective collection letter templates. She's got all kinds of great resources out there. Kindle editions on these are probably $5 to $20, so very affordable resources for you. We also provide some as attending this webinar. I know Adrian will be recording it. You'll be able to share it with others in your organization, review it later. But we're also going to send you the resource guide on the right. That includes links to PDFs that we've created, things like how to evaluate accounts receivable credit collection software, or how many employees do I need to be effective in AR management. We have a white paper on managing disputes. We have a white paper on creating a credit collections policy. We have a white paper around, trying to read these here, 17 things you should be doing to reduce receivables. So all these resources and a lot more. It also includes links to the videos so you can look at the software, see if it makes sense for your business. Almost done here. Leave you with one more quote. This is Kalmbach Feeds, one of our customers using the Microsoft Dynamics ERP. Anytime collects a much better system than the $1 million system I used before in the areas that it performs the same tasks. They're loving the product, have been loving it for many years. So that's it. We're going to wrap up with questions. I have my contact information on the screen, and I'm going to kick it back over to Adrian.
Thank you, Jim. That's a great presentation. I just want to remind the audience, if you have any questions, please go ahead and click on that question mark button or the raise your hand button, which is the hand, and we will read off your questions one by one. We do have a few here. I would like to launch a poll at this time just to get some feedback from the audience. If you could just take a second to answer this question, which ERP or accounting system are you using? And we have a few questions here, Jim. Which ERPs do you integrate with?
It's a good question. We have multiple ways to integrate. With QuickBooks Online, we have an integration through the Intuit Partner Platform, so that's a direct connection. With QuickBooks Desktop, we are leveraging their software development kit, so we do integrate there as well. In the mid-market space with Sage 100, Sage 300, and Sage 500, we have direct interfaces that we've built. They're kind of standard and canned that we use to get the data. Sage 50 being Peachtree, we integrate there. On the Microsoft Dynamics side, it's GP that we integrate with out of the box. We also have a direct interface to Epicor ERP, also Epicor 10 and Epicor 9. For all other ERP systems, SAP, Oracle, QAD, you name it, we have a CSV flat file interface. It's a generic interface. We've used that to connect to, dozens of different ERP applications. As long as you can get the data out, we can schedule that data to be imported into our application.
And we have a question from Jim. Will we receive a recording of this webinar? Yes, you will. I will send out an email from adrian@erpvar.com after the webinar, complete with recording and some documents that Jim, it's a giveaway that Jim is offering to help you with your accounts receivable collection efforts. And we have a couple of those same questions. Jim, we have a question, I think, related to your presentation. What was the cost to acquire a new client versus keeping an existing one?
I think that the estimate on that was 7 times. I don't know if it actually had a dollar amount. I believe it was 7 times.
And then what is the cost of your system?
That's a good question as well. So we have 3 editions of the product, and the pricing is based on those editions. It's also based on the deployment method. We do support both hosted cloud deployment as well as on-premise. And then there's user accounts involved as well. But I can give you some ballpark ranges and estimates. On the low end for Intuit QuickBooks Online, we have an app available that is $60 per month. It's limited to 1 user and has some limited functionality. You get into more of the mid-market or larger businesses, you're going to be looking at our standard edition. There's 2 pricing models there. You can choose to subscribe at $150 per month per user, or if you want to buy the product outright, it is $2,500 per user, and then you have an annual maintenance support plan that goes along with that. On the enterprise level for larger companies, more complex, more requirements, they want to install it on-premise. Those prices are about double. So you're looking at about $300 per month per user on subscription, or $5,000 per user for a purchase, plus your maintenance support contract. Implementations, that'll be the next question I get, is how long does it take to implement? Implementations are typically anywhere from a day to 2 days on the low end, up to a week for some of the larger, more complex implementations we do.
And we do have a note here. Thank you, Michelle, for your note. We are in the process of implementing ATC. Darlene has been wonderful and helpful to work with. We are excited about the product. And
excellent.
Yeah. And now, Jim, does Darlene's offer come with each new purchase, or is that extra?
I think you mean Michelle Dunn.
Yes, Michelle. I'm sorry.
It's optional. So what we've done with the partnership there is companies can buy anytime, collect. A lot of companies have a process in place. They have people that kind of understand what to do, but a lot of companies don't. So it's an $800 add-on, if you will. It's optional. And what that does is it gives them a lot of Michelle's resources embedded right within the product. But I think more importantly, it gives them those 2 hours to work with Michelle one-on-one. And they can always then contract with Michelle if they want or need more time. I think a lot of our customers will find that working with somebody that's a peer, that's been there, done that, owned a collection agency, is going to be really invaluable to them.
And Jim, we being an Indian company, how can we improve our collection call effectiveness? We have a great time zone difference.
That's an interesting question. I'm not really sure how to answer that. If you have customers in other locations, I mean, you really have to be very effective in your digital communication. Sometimes I think there's some strategies. We have customers globally. We implemented, as part of the software, we have an online customer portal. By just enabling our customers to get into the portal, review their statements and invoices online, and make payments online, sometimes that strategy alone can have some significant impact. As far as actually making calls, you need to be respectful of the customers and the contacts you're dealing with. You may need to adapt internally to be able to support that.
And then,
it's also worth mentioning.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to expand on that a little bit. Didn't really touch on this much, but we do have partners globally. We have partners in the Middle East. We have a partner in UK. We have a partner in Uganda, of all places, in Africa. We have a partner in the Caribbean and a partner in Latin America. So if there are companies that are considering anytime collect, and they happen to have locations or collectors in different regions globally, we do have a fairly sizable partner network that we can use to assist with implementations.
And lastly, Jim, we are excited to have ATC. Is it available in India?
We have customers all over the place. I have to look and see if we have customers in India. I know we currently have customers in about 15 countries worldwide. Our largest customer is in Australia. And we do have multilingual translations in Portuguese, Spanish, US and UK, English, and Hebrew, of all things. We are looking to add other languages here in the near future as well. Chinese is planned for the summer, potentially Japanese and some others. So we really don't care where you're located. As long as you can work in one of those languages, you'll be able to use the software.
And that is all the questions that I see, and it looks like we